batteries, but maybe not as soft as you think. And also some interesting research in stem cells and also medical research and drones once again. So today, 3D printing news unpeeled with me, Yoris Peels. And we're going to be talking, first off, Elkem, which is a company that makes materials, is known in 3D printing by one of the major producers of silicone materials for 3D printing, and they're also making another material at the moment. Um, they are making there's an EU funded project at SOMA, SOMA, and that was meant to be an e-mobility research project. And together with the Research Institute VTT, Siemens, Stellantis, the car company, and Gemmate Technology, they made a material which is now in small batch production at the Future Materials Norwegian Catapult Centre, making test parts. The test parts are for a scooter motor and other things similar to that. And it is essentially, it's a soft, um, uh, soft magnetic material that they've developed. And the idea is to have a more lightweight material that could function as a good, better drone or scooter or electric car or one-person air vehicle engine, right? And that is also easier to make, easier to manufacture than other magnetic materials, and potentially even cheaper to manufacture. And of course, with 3D printing, we can then also get this thing into certain shapes, perhaps even faster than you would using other soft magnetic materials. So that's, I think, that's a really good development. It's early days yet for this material. Of course, we don't know if it'll scale up in production. We don't know how well it'll actually do, and if the cost will be good enough or not. But the thing is that if we can make magnets and engine magnets and other components out of this material, it should have a very, very bright future indeed, and be able to maybe you'd be using millions of small motors that are now coming up in the engine in the engine and mobility world. So that's I think some good news also, because it's a really relatively good material and relatively future forward material that could really help. But yeah, and it's a good news that it's a 3D printed material for us. So the next news is from researchers from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who have in the journal Cell done an article with 3D bioprinting of human neural tissues with functional connectivity. The paper by Yuanwei Yan, Li, and Yuogao is, well, it's actually a really exciting thing. We've seen that people try to make organ on a chip, organoids, and kind of just simulation organs out of a lot of different parts of the body. And one of those really kind of eluded us in really producing a fully functioning or nearly functioning example is the brain. So what these guys are doing is they have really managed to create a mix where the neurons and the glia of the brain, and actually in between the different layers of the 3D print, are functionally integrated and grown together like normal brain tissue. And they're getting a structure and performance, if you will, that kind of replicates brain tissue. Now, that means that maybe we could understand more about trauma, how the brain is growing, some neuroscientific things. But probably the biggest impact this will have is on drug discovery, where if it is a good kind of copy of what the brain is, and if it is good working example of what the brain is doing, then it could be used really extensively in research. And yeah, the really unique thing is that what they're doing is they're horizontally 3D printing. So they are building this thing, and they're not building it up, but they're building it horizontally to make a really, 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 really thin slice of brain, if you will. Now, is that enough to do good studies on, to test drugs on, to look at toxicity or whatever? We don't know yet. But this seems to be very, very, very positive. So that's, I think, another good sign. And the third news is from General Atomics Aeronautical Systems, or GAASI. They have demonstrated the in-flight opening and release of a drone to essentially give birth to another drone. So there's an in-air kind of activity. Now, what's more, when the MQ-20 Avenger drone released the other drone out of its weapons bay, a whole bunch of new functional areas and a whole bunch of new kind of possibilities could emerge. So imagine you had a long term drone, and you can really quickly swap out the payloads. Or a long-term drone that was in the air for very many hours could extend its life at the last moment, release another drone to stay behind. Or it could be kind of a loyal wingman type package where the small drone can be released to draw away attackers or distract attackers, or to act as a kind of cruise missile kind of thing. And this is called an air-launched effects, or A2LE platform. And that also means that's kind of, they're going to keep that intentionally vague, obviously, what they do with this stuff, because God knows what other kind of goodies and things they're going to put in it. But what is the most interesting part of this from a 3D printing perspective is that they used 3D printing for the development to make this thing easier to develop and quicker to develop, right? To make this small drone. So that would mean that if some kind of special operations community or somebody in the Coast Guard or whatever has a particular kind of wish, it would be cheaper for them to develop this platform, which could really well mean that they could add to their profitability and add to the functionality of these drones by putting all sorts of different payloads. If the Indian Navy wants a particular kind of payload just for them, and they can't take the US sensor package, something like that, it would be cheaper and easier for them to develop something locally. 100% of the airframe of this small drone is 3D printed. They work together with Divergent on this. And this configurable kind of platform is we don't know yet what they're going to be doing with it, but it's a very exciting kind of way forward. One thing, actually, by the way, before I forget, that I thought is that you could give a drone a kind of wild weasel type of capability to either detect or to detect and destroy radar installations, for example. That's one thing that it could be doing. So but also think about leaving a sensor package behind somewhere in the ocean or something like that. There's tons of stuff we could do with it. So this generally really good news for GA and its customers. And that's it for today. My name is Joris Beals, and this is another edition of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. Have a great day, and I hope this was useful for you.